Have you ever wondered to what extent your decisions truly belong to you? Are the choices we make, whether small ones like which brand of coffee to buy, or major life decisions like whom to trust, or which career to pursue, always the result of our own independent reasoning? Or are we, more often than we realize, merely reacting to invisible influences around us? Imagine your mind as a castle. If you don't know where the hidden doors and secret passages are, someone could slip in and take control without you even noticing. But if you know every corner of that castle, you can defend it and prevent anyone from invading. That's exactly what this book does. It shows you the weak spots in your mind and how certain people know how to exploit them better than you can imagine. In Dark Psychology, Secrets and Manipulation, Amy Brown takes us on a disturbing journey into the hidden side of the human mind. She exposes how some individuals manage to exert an extreme level of control over others, whether in relationships, business, politics, or even in the digital world. And the most shocking part? Most victims of manipulation don't even realize what's happening. Psychological manipulation isn't obvious. It's not someone shouting orders or forcing a decision upon you. Quite the opposite. The most dangerous manipulators are those who make you believe the idea was yours all along. In the book, Brown explains that psychological manipulation works because it exploits natural vulnerabilities in the human mind. Our brains seek patterns, safety, and predictability. They don't like uncertainty. Manipulators understand this and use these natural tendencies to plant ideas, influence decisions, and even rewrite a person's perception of reality. To help readers grasp how this works in practice, the book presents various case studies and real-life stories that illustrate how dark psychology can be used to manipulate and control people. One striking example is the case of a man named David, who unknowingly found himself trapped in a highly manipulative relationship. David met his girlfriend at a vulnerable point in his life. He was struggling at work and felt like no one truly understood him. His girlfriend seemed like the perfect person at the perfect time. She was understanding. She listened to his problems, and she constantly said things like, "I'm the only one who truly cares about you. If it weren't for me, who else would be by your side?" At first, these words felt like genuine expressions of affection, but over time, David realized that his partner was systematically isolating him from his friends and family. If he mentioned wanting to go out with friends, she would look sad and say she felt left out. If he tried to confide in someone else, she would say, "You don't trust me anymore." David started isolating himself, believing he was making these decisions on his own. But in reality, he was being deliberately manipulated into becoming emotionally dependent on her. This is a classic example of emotional isolation, one of the core pillars of psychological manipulation described in the book. Manipulators know that when someone feels alone and vulnerable, they become much easier to control. This technique is commonly used in abusive relationships, cults, and even financial scams. And that brings us to another crucial concept Brown explores in the book: induced guilt. Have you ever noticed how some people make you feel bad about something that, rationally speaking, isn't even your fault? This technique is widely used by manipulators to get favors, dodge responsibilities, or simply maintain control over someone. Brown presents a case study of a woman named Anna, whose boss used guilt as a tool of manipulation. Whenever Anna tried to set boundaries at work, her boss would say things like, "Wow, I always trusted you so much. I thought you were more dedicated. If you can't do this, I don't know how I'll handle all this workload by myself." These statements triggered an emotional response that made Anna feel responsible for alleviating her boss's suffering, even when it meant staying late and sacrificing her personal life. Manipulation through guilt is incredibly effective because it preys on a person's moral compass. No one wants to be seen as ungrateful or selfish, and manipulators use this fear to make their victims give in to their demands without realizing they're being played. And when manipulation escalates to an even darker level, we enter one of the most destructive aspects explored in the book: gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone deliberately makes you question your own perception of reality. Brown tells the story of Mark, a man who started doubting his own sanity after years of living with a manipulative partner. If he said, "You promised we would go out today," she would respond, "I never said that. You must be confused." If he confronted her about an obvious lie, she would say, "Wow, you're exaggerating as always." Over time, Mark started doubting his own memory. He began wondering if he really was exaggerating, if maybe he was imagining things. That's what makes gaslighting so dangerous. It makes the victim lose complete trust in their own mind. And once someone loses confidence in their own perception, they become extremely vulnerable to whatever narrative the manipulator wants to impose. Another deeply explored concept in the book is the power of reciprocity. Our brains are wired to return favors. This instinct is so strong that we often feel indebted to someone even when we never asked for anything. Imagine you're walking through a mall, and a salesperson hands you a free perfume sample. You take it, thank them, and without even realizing it, you feel like it might be polite to listen to their sales pitch. You didn't ask for the sample, right? But now, you feel a subtle, invisible debt. Maybe you won't buy the perfume, but maybe you'll stay out of politeness. Listen to the explanation, try another scent, and before you know it, your wallet is open. This isn't a coincidence. It's a psychological principle well documented and constantly used in persuasion and manipulation strategies. But let's take it a step further. The book also discusses the impact of repetition in belief formation. Have you noticed how certain ideas seem to become absolute truths just because we hear them repeatedly? This happens because our brains confuse familiarity with truth. For example, if someone tells you a lie just once, you might doubt it. But if you hear that same lie from multiple sources over weeks, months, or years, you're much more likely to accept it as fact even without any real evidence. This is used all the time in media, politics, and even interpersonal relationships. People who master dark psychology know they don't need to convince anyone immediately. They have to do is plant an idea and subtly repeat it until the person believes it as if it were always true. In the book, there is a case study about how political propaganda uses this strategy to implant ideas into the population. The process works as follows. 1. A short and impactful phrase is created, preferably one that is easy to remember. 2. This phrase is repeated in different contexts, associating it with images, emotions, and authoritative figures. 3. Once the idea is deeply rooted in people's minds, a larger narrative is built around it. Amy Brown cites the case of a political campaign where a candidate used the slogan, "Protecting your family." What does that mean? Nothing, in isolation. But over time, this phrase was subtly associated with messages of fear and insecurity. The result? People started associating the candidate with the feeling of protection without even knowing exactly why. This applies not only to politics, but also to advertising, media, and even everyday interactions. How many times have you heard phrases like, "You always do this"? Everyone knows this is true. If it were a lie, why would so many people believe it? All of these statements reinforce beliefs through repetition, even when there's no real evidence behind them. But what makes these techniques so effective? Because they exploit the natural way our brain processes information. Our brain loves repetitive patterns. It tends to believe things it has heard many times before. It is afraid of uncertainty and seeks quick answers when it feels threatened. And people who understand this use that knowledge to guide our decisions without us realizing it. Individuals who frequently use dark psychology often exhibit specific personality traits known as the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Narcissists have an inflated sense of self-importance and constantly seek admiration, using manipulation to maintain their self-image and control those around them. Machiavellians are cold and calculating, believing that the ends justify the means, manipulating others to achieve their goals without considering ethical or moral consequences. Psychopaths exhibit persistent antisocial behaviors, a lack of empathy and remorse, and a tendency toward impulsive behaviors. They are highly manipulative and dangerous, using superficial charm to deceive and exploit others. Now, knowing all this, how can we protect ourselves? The most important thing is to understand that psychological manipulation isn't rare, it's happening around us all the time. It can be in the boss who twists facts to make you work more, the friend who always makes you feel guilty, the advertisement that subtly shapes your beliefs, the political speech that manipulates your emotions to gain your support. And the more you understand these mechanisms, the harder it is to be manipulated. The book provides psychological defense strategies to help identify and resist these tactics. One of them is what Brown calls immediate critical thinking. Whenever someone pressures you to make a quick decision, ask yourself these questions. Does this person have something to gain from my choice? Do I really think this way? Or am I just reacting emotionally? What are the concrete facts? Another essential defense is keeping written records. If someone constantly denies saying something or tries to distort your memory, take notes of important conversations and facts. This serves as an anchor point for your perception of reality. Additionally, it is crucial to pay attention to how certain people make you feel. If you leave a conversation feeling guilty, confused, or emotionally drained, ask yourself, did this feeling come from me, or was it induced by someone else? Knowledge of dark psychology is not just a form of defense, it also makes us more aware of how we influence others. Because, in the end, knowledge is power, and understanding how your mind works is the first step to ensuring that your decisions are truly yours. Now tell me, which of these tactics surprised you the most? Have you ever noticed someone using this against you? I want to hear your thoughts. To dive even deeper, you can buy the book in physical or digital format using my Amazon affiliate link in the description and pinned comment. And by doing so, you'll be helping this channel bring even more content for you. And if this video helped you, leave a comment and let me know which book you'd like summarized next. Check out the final screens for more compact wisdom. See you next time.